everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my end of year reading reflections. So this is going to be a look at all of the stats that I have from Goodreads, from my own spreadsheet, and from Storygraph. So over 2023, I used Goodreads to track everything that I have read, including manga and the novels. I have my own personal spreadsheet where I track other types of stats that I'm interested in regards to my novels and manga read. I also keep track of my average manga rating on that spreadsheet. And then I have a Storygraph where I track only the novels that I have read during the year. So we're going to start off with Goodreads. I'm just going to read off the My Year in Goodreads page. So if I have done this correctly, what you're seeing in the background here is a video of my ride through of the Small World Holiday ride while we were in Disneyland at the end of November. And so I hope you enjoy the sights as I just tell you how my reading went in 2023. So for my shortest book, it was a manga. It was Dekaboko Sugar Rush, which is a extra volume. I believe this is number 4 in the Dekaboko Sugar Days series by Atsuko Yusen. I read this one during the Manga Pride readathon, I am almost positive, and it comes in at 42 pages. The longest book I read was Court, which is the 4th book in the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. This came in at 941 pages. I read this one while we were at Disney World in April. My average book length in 2023 was 261 pages. The book that I read that was most shelved is a book that shall not be named, and so we're just going to skip through that. But the thing that I read that was least shelved by people on Goodreads was Imitation by Kyungran Park. This is a manhwa, and 60 people also shelved this book. My average rating over all of the things that I have read in 2023 was a 3.9, which in itself looks great. I'm very happy with that overall rating, but that is heavily impacted by the manga that I read. So we'll get into more of that as I go through the other stat sheets that I have, but overall I'm pretty happy with that rating. The thing that I read that was highest rated on Goodreads was Haikyuu, Volume 36 by Haruichi Furudate. I read this one in December as part of my manga advent calendar project. My first review of the year was for The Christmas Murder Game, which is a novel by Alexandra Benedict. This was a 3-star read for me. And then it goes through all of my 2023 reads. So I think we're pretty much done with those statistics. The last book that I read for the year was How to Win Her Heart on the Nth Try by Ichine Kamijo. This is a light novel that is a contemporary romance, which is very interesting for me. But I really enjoyed that one. I gave that one 4 stars. So let's now move over to my personal spreadsheet that I have that will give me a little bit more stats than what Goodreads gives me. So, of the total things I read, which is 227, I read 188 owned books. This includes manga and graphic novels, just in case you know. I just put everything as owned. So I guess I should say owned things. 188 owned things. 31 of the things I read were borrowed from the library. I read 1 thing from Kindle Unlimited, and I did end up canceling my Kindle Unlimited subscription because I obviously wasn't using it. And the thing that I had borrowed from Kindle Unlimited was Crush, which is the 2nd book in the Crave series by Tracy Wolff. So at least I was able to use it for something during the year, but yes, I did let go of my Kindle Unlimited subscription, so I am saving a little bit of money there. The number of volumes of manga that I read on the Shonen Jump app was 1. Now, I am keeping my Shonen Jump app subscription. My daughter uses it a lot more than I do, but the volume that I read was Mashle, Magic and Muscles Volume 1, we read this for the Monochrome Manga Club during the year. So it was great to have that, because I don't think Mashal is going to be a series that I do want to purchase for my shelves, but it is something that I think I want to continue to explore, at least for a little bit longer. So that's great. The number of arcs that I read was 0. I didn't read any arcs. I think arcs is just not for me. Advanced readers copies. My mom does work for Barnes & Noble, so she does bring home arcs, so I do have a potential to read those, but I am not actively looking for arcs on NetGalley or Edelweiss anymore. It's just not my type of reading thing, I think. So the number of books I reread in 2023 was actually 20. I allowed myself to do a little bit more rereading in the year because I haven't really been happy with the things that I've been reading. Like most of the things that I read, I believe came in at a 3-star overall as far as the novels go. And so novel reading for me had a lot more rereads, and I allowed myself to go back to things that I knew I really enjoyed because my novel reading has not been great. So I am looking to do more rereads in 2024, but we'll talk about that later. So the number of things I read either physically or by ebook was 67, and those are just novels. The number of things I listened to on audiobook was 14, and the number of things that I combo read, so I read part of the book physically and I read some of the book by audiobook, was 21. The number of series I started was 62. Now hear me out. I do run the Monochrome Manga Club, and we are starting between 2 to 3 series every month. So that has heavily impacted this number. Now outside of that, I have started a few other series, but that is pretty much where most of the series I started has come from, is things that we read during the Monochrome Manga Club that I do want to read a little bit more of. So the number of series that I completed in the year was actually 9, which is not great, but it's not terrible. The number of series I restarted was also 9. So I did have to go back and restart some series in order to continue them. So that is where that number comes in. And the amount of series that I DNF'd, which means I read some from it and have decided not to continue, is 4. The number of standalones that I read was 27. So that means everything else that I read was from series. I am obviously a very big series reader, and so I think you can see that reflected in those numbers. The amount of backlist titles I read was 194, and the number of 2023 releases that I read was 33. And so I obviously read a lot of backlist titles. I read a lot of series, and so this is very, very normal numbers for me. I would say that I probably picked up a few more 2023 releases in 2023 than I had, like, say, in previous years, picked up current year releases. And I think, again, that is part of the Monochrome Manga Club playing in, because I do try to pick recent releases for our monthly reads, or at least close to recent. And so that is definitely helping to pump that number up. The number of volumes of manga that I read was 154. So a lot of my reading comes from reading manga. The number of graphic novels I read was 2. So that is obviously not manga, but comics. The number of manhwa I read, so Korean comics, is 4. And the number of light novels I read was 6. So I definitely want to try to increase the number of light novels that I read in 2024. And everything else I think I'm okay with. As I explore more manhwa titles, I definitely will be increasing that number as well. So the total number of novels that I read in 2023 was 61, which is great because my base for any year is 52 novels read. So I did definitely increase that number, which is excellent. So that means that the total number of novels that I read, which includes the light novels, because I do include those as novels, is 67. So a much much better number there. I'm very, very happy with the number of novels that I read in 2023. So that brings me to a grand total of things read in 2023 to 227. I DNF'd 5 books, and like I said before, I DNF'd 4 series. I thought a fun thing to track in 2023 would be what my number of things I want to read on my to-read shelf on Goodreads was at the beginning of the year and what it was at the end of the year. And so at the beginning of 2023, my to-read shelf on Goodreads was at 2,674 things. Keep in mind that I have not gone through my Goodreads list and edited out anything that I no longer have interest in reading in a very, very long time. So there are some things there from my very first year on Goodreads, which I think is in 2009. So yes, lots of years of things I want to read there. And so at the end of 2023, the number of things I want to read on my shelf on Goodreads was at 2,712. So just another side note on that, I don't track everything that comes into my possession anymore on Goodreads. So a lot of the things that I added at the end of the year, because I did add several things, were series continuations that I never marked as want to read after I finished the previous one. And that's where that bulked up that number. And so there's a difference of 38 things. So I didn't do too great on that. But again, it doesn't really matter to me what that number is. I think that's more interesting information for you than it is for me. So I thought I'd throw in that stat. So according to my spreadsheet, my top 3 genres of things that I read, and this includes everything, novels and manga, graphic novels, light novels, everything. The top 3 genres was fantasy, romance, and mystery. Fantasy, I definitely can see because I do read a lot of like supernatural type stories, and I do count that as fantasy. I do try to keep things very general as far as the genres that I track, unless it is something that's super like specific that I know I really enjoy. And so like I do have a tracker for like cozy mysteries as opposed to just regular mysteries. So cozy mystery is not included in the mystery genre stat, but if I add that to the mystery, it still comes in as my 3rd highest rated genre of the year. So fantasy, like I said, was the largest at 64 things that I read were I consider fantasy. 59 of the things that I read, I would consider romance. So that would be probably mostly contemporary romance because a lot of those titles either were from things that I read for the Manga Pride Readathon, which I read a lot of contemporary BL and GL during that month. I also read a lot of romance in manga. So that is where that stat is coming from. I do typically read a lot of romance manga titles, but I don't read a lot of romance novels. And so it's very interesting to me that romance is such a big genre of mine because it's never something that I think I read a lot. But as I track things, I obviously read a lot of romance. But I do know that I would say 98% of it comes from manga. So always a very interesting stat for me at the end of the year. And then, like I said, my mysteries, I read a lot of mysteries. 52 things that I read last year were mystery. I read a lot of mystery during March Mystery Madness. I would say when I'm actively looking for things to read, it's always going to be mystery first. And so, yeah, definitely not a surprise with mystery being in the top 3. I was thinking that it should probably be higher than 3rd in my top 3, but not too surprising with the mystery, but definitely surprising with the romance. Now, for my manga rating, I did keep this separate. So over all of the manga that I read, the average rating for me was a 4.00. So that tells me that I am picking up a lot of titles that I am really, really enjoying. Titles that I would consider rereading. And that's great. That's where I want to be. I want to be at a 4-star. So 113 volumes of manga that I read were 4-star. 24 of those volumes were 5-star. And then everything else fell between a 2 and a 3.5 star. Very, very happy with my manga ratings. That tells me that I definitely know what I want to read. And that's great. The novels, on the other hand, is another story. So let's go to Storygraph. Storygraph does a similar thing to Goodreads. And so this is just going to be in regards to all of the novels that I read. So it says the first book I read, again, Christmas Murder Game. Last book was How to Win Her Heart on the Nth Try. It says you unraveled intricate mysteries, embarked on exciting adventures, and delved into dark and intense narratives, and the stories unfolded at breakneck speed. So definitely was feeling the mysterious novels and fast-paced as well. As far as my reading landscape, the months that I read the most number of pages was definitely in April and August, and those 2 months are months for the Aurelium Magical Readathon, so that's not a surprise for me there. And then the number of things that I read was definitely mostly in August, so again, part of the Aurelium Magical Readathon. The second month that I read the most number of novels was in November, when I was doing Light Novel November. So again, not very surprising there. Then it tells me congratulations on meeting your reading goal, which was at 125% of what I had intended on reading. So great. As far as the novels go, the genres I spent the most time with in 2023 were fantasy as number 1, mystery as number 2, and romance. So again, this one also gives me top 5, so young adult and thriller were my other 2. Longest book, again, Court from Tracy Wolff, 4th book in the Crave series. The shortest book that I read was My Happy Marriage, Volume 4, the light novel by Akumi Akitogi. This came in at 176 pages. The average length of the books I read was about 364 pages, and it took me around 14 days to finish each book. I spent the least amount of time reading The Dead Lifeguard by R.L. Stine, which came in at 2 days, and it took me 267 days to finish Grey Walker by Kat Richardson, which is the first book in the Grey Walker series. This was a reread for me, and it still took me 267 days. This was a series that I had intended on restarting so that I could continue with it. And I'm not sure that I even want to continue with it at this point, just because it took me so long to read that first one. But I'll leave that simmering on the back burner for the moment. The authors I spent the most time with in novels was Victoria Laurie, which I read 5 books. Those were all rereads for me in the Ghost Hunter Mystery series, one of my absolute favorite series. And Tracy Wolff, which I read 5 of the books in the Crave series in 2023. Really, really enjoyed that series in 2023. And then I read 4 books by Karen Marie Moning because I was doing the Fever-a-thon read-along with my friend Janaea over at Live 1,000 Lives. And so, yeah, not very surprising for me with that. My average rating for the novels was a 3.66. That is not where I want to be. That tells me that I have kind of lost my reading taste, which I picked up on that pretty early in the year. And so this year I'm going to be trying a bunch of things to try to get that number up. So we'll see if any of those things work. And again, I will talk about that at a later date. I had 3 5-star reads. Covet and Court from the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, which is numbers 3 and 4. And BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural by Shane Madej and Ryan Bergara. I've really, really enjoyed that. But it is an extension of a TV show that I really enjoy, so not a surprise there as well. Plus, I listened to it on audiobook, and Ryan and Shane narrated, and it just couldn't have been any better. So in looking at my overall ratings through the year, as far as the novels go, a majority of the novels that I read came in at 3 stars. And that is definitely not where I want to be. I want to be 4-star and above, if at all possible, with an exception for probably 3.5. I want to be at a mostly 4-star rating in the year 2024 as far as novels and manga go. I will accept 3.5, but I don't want that to be my highest amount of things rated. I want the highest amount of things rated to be at a 4-star. So I definitely need to do some work there. Then it continues and says some months are better than others. In July, my highest average rating was a 4.1, which is great. That tells me that I was picking up a lot of things that I was really enjoying in July. But then it says, as it turns out, March wasn't your favorite month with an average rating of 3.4, which is odd because March is March Mystery Madness, and that should be my bread and butter reads. But it wasn't. So that's very shocking to me. And it says April was the month that I had the most number of pages read at 2,983 pages. It says I explored the works of 33 new authors, including Tracy Wolff, Holly Jackson, and Ichine Kamijo. This is a little bit skewed because this doesn't include a lot of things. I really only used Storygraph consistently over 2023, and so it doesn't pick up that I had read other books by Holly Jackson, so that is why it's showing Holly Jackson as a new author. I'm sure that comes up with a bunch of the other 33 authors that it says I read new. And truthfully, Tracy Wolff is not a new author to me in 2023 either, because I read Crave, the first book in the Crave series, in 2022. And so she technically shouldn't be a new author for me in 2023. 52 out of the 67 novels that I read were part of a series. Not surprising again to me. And it says I revisited 11 books this year. So that includes the Ghost Hunter Mysteries, the first book in the Fever series by Karen Marie Moning, and things like that. So yes, definitely I'm going to allow myself to do more rereads in 2024. I decided not to finish 5 novels this year. And so yeah, that's pretty much all of the stats that I have for 2023. Obviously, like I said, there are a lot of things that I need to work on to make sure that I am reading more things that I really, really enjoy. So 4-star basically for me is things that I would reread again in the future, things that I have really, really enjoyed while I was reading it, things that live in my head for an amount of time after I finish reading it. And so I definitely want more of those types of reads. I don't want reads that I get to the end of the book and I'm like, oh, that was just okay, which was kind of the overarching feeling for a lot of the novels that I read in 2023. And so I'm definitely looking to stick to my DNF rules harder and faster in 2024. 25% or 100 pages. I definitely need to tell myself, okay, if I'm thinking that at that point, 25% or 100 pages, I am not enjoying, or I think this is just going to be a 3-star read by the end, I'm going to tell myself to go ahead and let it go. Because with the life things that I experienced in 2023, life is definitely too short to be spending on things you're not absolutely enjoying. And I definitely need to make myself stick to my DNF parameters, because I am spending way too much time on things that I am just really not enjoying as much as I should be. And so definitely going to explore a few more things over 2024. Definitely going to try to get myself back to mostly 4-star reads overall. And so I have plans set in place to do that over the year, which again, I will talk about in another video. So let me know down in the comments below what your stats look like. Are you trying to find your reading taste like I am? Are you happy with the stats that you got at the end of 23? Or do you think that you will be exploring other things in 2024? I would really love to know. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a blue heart emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.